So the big man clad in dark armor has returned. Golbez has dropped with his Lost Chapters, and 7's EX debut along with her level 70. Oh, she already had her level 70 awakening along with her rework. Golbez did not get a rework. All he got was his EX plus and level 70 awakening. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start off with 7. So 7 didn't get a minor rework, and I say minor because it wasn't really too much of a touch-up. She got some good things, lots of longevity fixes, though, I will say that. Her first skill, Snake Bite and Lash, now does HP damage regardless. 150% overflow on that, which is pretty nice. Her Elemental Lash, they both got skill increases and potency increases. Elemental Lash will now overflow up to 120% and whatnot. Her EX at base is a 3-hit single target HP attack that is executed twice, and it does 20% splash damage after the second hit. Her EX plus is pretty nice. Gives her everything considered 3 out of 3, 6 hits, potency increases up to 180% overflow. Sorry. One enemy will actually randomly start off with the Snake Bite and Lash, the Snake Bite debuff that 7 inflicts in the first place, as well as just a bunch of other potency increases and everything like that, standard fare, which is all pretty nice. She gets an HP attack plus access out of 2 out of 3, I believe it was. Well, her EX plus will give her access to an HP attack plus, which is a 2-hit single target HP attack that inflicts 1 stack of the Snake Bite debuff, which is pretty nice. So that's kind of it for 7. Yeah, it really wasn't much. There wasn't really too much to note and whatnot. So yeah, so how does that help out 7 in the long run? Oh, I did forget to mention, sorry, that her EX will actually recover 1 use of both of her skills up to their initial value, which is actually really nice. And everything considered, it has a normal recharge rate, so you'll be finding yourself using it quite a lot. So the biggest thing with this rework is 7's longevity has skyrocketed. She now can pretty much fight for the entirety of the time, whereas her biggest issue before was she was just popping out way too many skills. Especially the lack of an EX. When she first dropped, 7 just burnt out entirely way too quickly. And wasn't really much of a help in the fight. Now 7 actually has great longevity, but the problem still remains, even before, is that she is still a single target machine, meaning that she's going to be taken out of a lot of fights that involve dual bosses, mostly because if she tries to attack another target and inflict the Snake Bite debuff onto another target, it will dispel it from the target before. So that same issue still arises, unfortunately, and hinders her for a lot of opportunities, because you have to start resetting the stacks on another opponent. Not to mention having the effect of starting off the quest with Snake Bite on a random enemy can kind of hinder you as well, because it might not be the enemy that you're looking to start it off with, and you have to sit there and refresh it onto the enemy that you do want, and then that ends up wasting time and wasting a skill to get that going, versus rather than just immediately coming right out the gate, applying your second stacks and everything like that. So 7 is really only secluded to single target bosses. Yes, the 20% splash damage is kind of nice, and it is kind of useful for AoE options, but it's really not all that useful, and it's really not something that you should warrant bringing into a dual or triple boss fight anyway. 7 excels in single target damage and single target bosses, so if you are choosing to build her up, definitely 3 out of 3 her, because she needs all the damage that she possibly can get, as well as the ability to start off with Snake Bite at the beginning of the quest. Now, how is 7 for the Chaos Era? Now, like I said before, she's really only good against single target bosses, and the fact that her Elemental Lash is actually 3 elements in 1, there is a strong possibility that, the Chaos boss that you're going up against will resist at least one of those elements. So you do have to be careful, because that can hinder her damage, especially depending on how much they resist. And I know with the snake bite debuff, it gives her weakness damage, but you know, there's only so much that's actually going to help out. So you have to make sure that you're careful and cautious on how and who you bring her to. And considering the fact that she has 3 elements built into her most damaging attack besides her EX, and the fact that she's really only good against single target bosses, 7's going to be sitting out a lot and a lot of fights, unfortunately. So, important for the Chaos Era? No, absolutely not. An incredible single target DPS unit? Yeah, she is. She does a lot of damage. She does a lot of good damage. It's just, you know, a lot of our Chaos bosses are going to end up being dual bosses. A lot of them. It's going to actually be pretty rare that we find ourselves going up against a single target boss. And it's kind of unfortunate. Like, there are certain situations where 7 will actually find use, and that situation will be much like kind of like the CPU raid that we have going on right now, where there's just one big boss and a few small little bosses, like Renoa's boss. Let's see who else has a boss like that. Bosch had a boss like that. She can be useful in situations like that, you know. As long as she targets all damage onto the main boss, the EX will help do that splash damage that's needed to the little ones. Granted that you also have the AoE options to take out the little ones as well. So she's not secluded from all multi-bosses. You know, there are some instances where you can bring her, but most of the time, single target bosses are her bread and butter, and that's what you're going to want to bring her to. And unfortunately, those are far and few in between in the Chaos Era, so you're not really going to be finding really all that much use for 7. 7's going to be on the bench quite a lot, unfortunately, because there's just going to be better options to bring to your team when you're going up against those dual bosses. So, unfortunately, it's a no for 7. Like I said, if you do choose to build her up, and if she is a favorite of yours, please, by all means, still build her up anyway. Just because of what I said doesn't mean she's not usable. You can find her uses, just have to pick and choose which one would best suit her. If you do choose to build her up, 3 out of 3 is the way to go, but you could safely stop at 2 out of 3. Considering she's a DPS unit, I definitely believe 3 out of 3 is definitely the way to go. You want the hit increase and the overflow increase to her ability. Now let's move on to the big man himself, Golbez. So Golbez did not get a rework, as he did not need one. All Golbez got was a level 70 Awakening and his EX Plus. So let's go ahead and talk about all that stuff. His C65 is Dark Enchant, so much like Leon's, and someone happily informed me on that video as well. He gives himself the Dark Enchant, which will apply darkness damage to his abilities and whatnot. That helps out a lot because it'll increase the amount of weakness damage that he's applying to the targets with his Imperil. His EX Plus, all passives considered, and I'm going to say it needs to be 3 out of 3, absolutely, because 3 out of 3 is stacked. He will start off the quest with 1 stack of Shadow Dragon, helping him get going immediately, so you only have to use 1 skill to get him up at 3 out of 3, or his EX will now start off at the beginning of the quest, and it will also give him a free ability usage, as well as it will cast Meteor 3 times instead of twice. The amount of damage that this man has now have access to is absolutely astronomical. Like, it has made my board farming much easier, and I love it. He also has now access to an HP Attack Plus, which helps him out a lot. It's a strange one too. It's a little unique to him. So when you use it, depending on his Brave value, it will do an HP attack first, then followed up by a 2-hit single target HP attack, which is really neat. I like that a lot. That's very unique to Golbez, and it is good. Depending on where your Brave value is at, it'll help out a lot. So yeah, that's pretty much it on what Golbez got. How does this help him for the Chaos Era? Much like Sephiroth, this pretty much just makes Golbez viable. His longevity has been fixed good. It has been fixed a good amount. The fact that he gets a free ability usage after each time he's an EX, and he now has access to an HP Tech Plus, helps him out a lot. The only issue is much like Sephiroth, and Eiko herself actually too, is his EX is still a slow charging EX. Granted, it's a little bit better in his case because Shadow Dragon is up for 6 turns total. It's still the kind of issue where you have to make sure you're expending at least 1 or 2 abilities in between each rotation just to make sure that you are getting him getting his EX up by the time that Shadow Dragon goes away, because you want to refresh Shadow Dragon with that EX, and you have to make sure you do because his skills don't add to the stacks anymore. You need the EX to add to the stacks once it gets to their plus variants. So, and it does help out a lot in that regard, considering that he gets a free skill usage after his EX, which, by the way, his EX does get a new frame buff that increases stats. I forgot to mention that. It was called something for Atonement. Anyway, it does help out a ton in that regard, considering that he now gets access to a free ability usage, so you can find yourself not wasting as many skills while getting that EX charge. So, all in all, how is Golbez for the Chaos Era? Is he important? Is he any more important than Sephiroth? I believe so, literally only for that darkness and peril. Golbez is much like Sephiroth in the case of he doesn't bring anything to the table for the party. The only thing that he brings is that dark and peril. And there's only a few characters that can abuse that, and we won't be able to fully abuse that until the Diabolos Ultimate Trials comes out, where we can have a summon that inflicts dark damage regardless. So it's really only there to help himself, so he is the definition of a selfish unit right now. And much like the verdict I gave to Sephiroth, unfortunately, I kind of have to do the same with Golbez. Does Golbez hit hard? Yes. Well, Golbez hits really hard. But Golbez is also in a different situation where his kit is very heavily mixed. Both of his abilities are the combination of magic and magic and physical attacks. So, if the boss resists either, that's gonna hurt his damage just by a bit. What helps is having the darkness and peril and the dark enchant, and so you can inflict, you can try and negate the amount of resistance damage that they're gonna do. But God forbid they do resist dark at the same time. You know, you see where it's going. I mean, I don't think there's really any boss that resists dark and magic or physical at the same time. But you know, that question still is there. I mean, it can happen, and it could happen. So, much like the verdict I gave to Sephiroth, I kind of have to do the same here with Golbez. Even though I love Golbez very much, he's one of my favorite. I'm going to call him an antagonist, because I don't think he's really much of a villain. He's one of my favorite antagonists in the Final Fantasy franchise. I love his character, and I love everything about him. But unfortunately, I do have to give him the same verdict as Sephiroth. While he hits hard, astronomically hard, and he does a lot of great damage, unfortunately, Golbez is not all that important for the Chaos Era, considering that all he is bringing to the table is just straight damage. He's not bringing any utility, any versatility. In fact, his versatility in his damage is hindered a bit because his kit is so mixed. So you do have to make sure that you are keeping an eye on the resistances that the bosses will have when bringing Golbez. A great character, absolutely. If you do choose to build up Golbez, he will shine for you like no other at 3 out of 3, and he does a fuck ton of damage, guys. And he does a lot of damage. But like with the verdict I gave to Sephiroth, unfortunately, he's just not all that important for the Chaos Era because he's not bringing anything to the party. We're going to be getting units in the future very soon, as a matter of fact, that have some good auras, good utility to the party, and they do a lot of better things for the party than Golbez. Damage alone is a reason to bring him on your team if you do choose to build him up. And you can get the job done if you build around him with the proper support, properly support him and your other teammate. So just make sure that you are building centering your team around the fact that you got to boost everyone else up too, because Golbez is not bringing anything there. But He does a lot of damage. He hits very hard. And even if you do choose to dig into this banner and build him up, you won't regret building him up because he's just so powerful. If he offered anything more to the party, the verdict would be vastly different. But unfortunately, just having that dark apparel for the time being, right now, it only helps himself. And by the time that we get characters that do dark damage or do good enough dark damage to warrant his dark apparel, Golbez would have kind of fallen off by then already. Considering that's not going to really be until until we get to the late Chaos era. So the verdict stands. It's a no for Golbez. It's a hard no. I say hard because it's hard for me to say that because I love my man. I love my big boy here, but unfortunately it's a no for the importance of Golbez in the Chaos era. Great characters. Both Seven and Golbez are great characters, and they have their uses, and especially more so Golbez, because with that triple meteor, the whole, split damage against two targets is kind of null and void. He excels now with dual bosses with that triple meteor. So Golbez is a great character in his own right. So is Seven. It's just they're not really bringing anything too much to the table for the Chaos era. But you can get use out of them if you do choose to build them. That'll pretty much do it for this one, guys. I realize that this one is going on a little long. Thank you so much for watching and sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one.